Hollywood is in shock tonight. Diane Keaton, the legendary actress whose quirky charm, wit, and timeless talent define generations, has been confirmed dead at 79. But what really happened in her final days has left fans and friends speechless. From a secret battle she kept hidden to the heartbreaking words spoken at her private funeral, this story isn't what the headlines are telling you. Stay with me, because what we've uncovered about Diane Keaton's last moments and the legacy she left behind will change how you remember her forever. Diane Keaton was more than an actress. She was a force of nature, a woman whose wit, independence, and effortless charm redefined what it meant to be a Hollywood icon. From her unforgettable roles in Annie Hall and The Godfather to her fearless personality both on and off screen, Diane carved a legacy that felt untouchable. That's why the news of her sudden passing at 79 has shaken fans across the world. Tonight, we're taking you beyond the headlines and into the truth. What really happened in those final weeks before Diane Keaton's death? Who attended her private farewell ceremony? And what were the emotional words shared by her closest friends? And perhaps most heartbreaking of all, what secret struggle had Diane been facing behind her radiant smile? A struggle even her loyal fans never suspected? You won't believe the details that have emerged. In this video, we'll explore the life, legacy, and mystery surrounding Diane Keaton's final days, including what Hollywood insiders have quietly revealed, the tributes pouring in from her co-stars, and the hidden messages found in her last public statements. Stay with me, because as the story unfolds, every new detail makes the truth more astonishing. And by the end, you'll see why Diane Keaton's passing isn't just another celebrity loss. It's the end of an era in Hollywood. When news broke that Diane Keaton had passed away at the age of 79, the entertainment world froze. Social media flooded with disbelief. Fans refused to accept that the woman who had brought so much light, humor, and honesty to the screen was really gone. But behind the initial shock lay a series of quiet, heartbreaking details that began to paint a clearer picture of her final days. According to those close to her, Diane had been living a relatively private life in Los Angeles. For years, she had stepped away from the constant spotlight, preferring the comfort of her home, her photography projects, and her time spent with family and close friends. She was often seen walking through her neighborhood, sipping coffee, or snapping photos of old buildings, the kind of simple pleasures she always appreciated. However, in the months leading up to her death, subtle signs began to appear that something wasn't right. Those who saw her in person mentioned she looked more fragile than usual. Her public appearances became rarer, and even her famously vibrant interviews, once filled with laughter and witty one-liners, seemed noticeably subdued. Sources later revealed that Diane had been quietly battling health issues for quite some time. She had chosen to keep her condition private, a decision consistent with her lifelong desire to separate her personal struggles from her public persona. Diane never wanted pity. She wanted to be remembered for her work, her passion, and her unique view of the world. Friends close to her mentioned that even during her most difficult days, she remained gracious and optimistic. One insider reportedly said, "She never complained. Even when you could tell she wasn't feeling well, she'd change the subject and start talking about something creative, a book she was reading, a new idea for a project, or an old movie she'd rediscovered." In her final week, Diane is said to have been surrounded by her immediate family. There were no flashing cameras, no paparazzi, just quiet moments filled with love, stories, and gratitude. It's believed that she spent her last evening reflecting on her life and the people who made it meaningful. But here's where the story takes a surprising turn. A few close friends say Diane made several phone calls in her last days, calls that hinted at something she wanted to reveal, something she felt needed to be said before she left this world. What was it she shared in those final conversations? Was it a message about her legacy, or something more personal that she never wanted the public to know? In the days before Diane Keaton's passing, a quiet pattern began to emerge, one that has left fans and even close friends with more questions than answers. Those who spoke with her described their final conversations as emotional, reflective, and filled with cryptic undertones. It wasn't like Diane to sound uncertain or melancholy, but in these last few exchanges, her words carried a weight that felt almost like a farewell. A close friend from her early Hollywood days recalled receiving one of those calls just 3 nights before the news broke. According to the source, Diane's tone was gentle but unusually serious. She reportedly said, "I just wanted to tell you how much you've meant to me. I don't say it enough." Her friend, not realizing the gravity of the moment, thought it was simply a nostalgic chat, something Diane often did when reminiscing about old times. But now, in hindsight, it feels like she was saying goodbye. Another insider mentioned that Diane reached out to several of her co-stars from over the years, including a few she hadn't spoken to in decades. She expressed gratitude, apologized for past misunderstandings, and spoke about legacy, not fame or awards, but the kind of legacy that lives in how you treat people and the stories you leave behind. Those who knew her best say that in those final words, Diane sounded peaceful, as though she had already made peace with what was coming. What's particularly striking is that just days before her passing, Diane also made a brief post on social media. It was simple, a black and white photograph of a sunset taken from her balcony, captioned with the words, "Every ending carries its own kind of beauty." At the time, no one thought much of it. Fans flooded the comments with compliments about her photography, never realizing it might have been her final message to the world. After her death, the post went viral. People began revisiting her last interviews, searching for clues or hidden meanings. One of her final on-screen moments, a recorded conversation during a charity event, showed Diane speaking about the fragility of time. She said, "I've learned that what matters isn't how long we live, but how deeply we love. The rest is just noise." Now those words echoed differently. Was she hinting at her awareness of what was to come? Did she know that her time was limited? Some close friends believed she did, and that those calls and messages were her way of preparing her loved ones for the inevitable without burdening them with her pain. In the weeks that followed, tributes poured in. Former co-stars from The Godfather, Something's Gotta Give, and Annie Hall shared touching memories of working with her. Al Pacino, her longtime friend and collaborator, reportedly said in a private statement, "Diane was one of a kind, fearless, brilliant, and honest. She saw the world differently, and she helped the rest of us see it, too." But there's still one piece of the puzzle that hasn't been publicly explained. What exactly was said in those final private conversations that her family has chosen not to release? Some reports claim Diane left behind a personal letter sealed in her will meant only for her children and closest friends. Its contents remain confidential, but one family member hinted that it reflects the real Diane, raw, emotional, and full of gratitude. Could that letter hold the truth about her final thoughts and her unspoken fears? Or perhaps it was something else, a message of peace, a reflection of the woman who spent her life finding beauty in imperfection. Whatever it was, those who knew her say it was deeply moving and exactly what you would expect from someone like Diane Keaton. But there's another side to the story, one that unfolded quietly behind the scenes. While fans were mourning and Hollywood prepared its tributes, plans were already being made for her private farewell. The details of that service, who attended, and what was said inside those walls reveal a level of emotion that the public has yet to fully grasp. The announcement of Diane Keaton's funeral came quietly, almost silently, just as she would have wanted it. There were no public press releases, no red carpets, and no camera crews waiting at the gates. It was a private affair attended only by her closest circle of family, lifelong friends, and a few of her most trusted colleagues from her decades-long career. The service took place in a small ivy-covered chapel on the outskirts of Los Angeles, the kind of place Diane herself would have loved, simple, elegant, filled with warm light from stained glass windows that painted soft colors across the pews. Outside, the courtyard was lined with white roses and lavender, her favorite flowers. Each guest received a single white rose as they entered, symbolizing purity, love, and the kind of timeless grace Diane embodied. The ceremony began with soft piano music, a piece Diane often listened to during her morning walks. Those who attended said the air was heavy with emotion, but also strangely peaceful. It wasn't just a moment of mourning. It was a celebration of a life that had changed so many others. As the attendees took their seats, a large screen at the front of the chapel began playing a video montage, clips from her films, behind-the-scenes moments, and personal home videos she had recorded over the years. Laughter filled the room when scenes from Annie Hall appeared. That signature outfit, her charming awkwardness, her genuine smile. It was impossible not to smile back, even through tears. Then came the tributes. each one revealing a side of Diane the public rarely saw. Her longtime friend and co-star, Al Pacino, spoke first. His voice, though steady, carried a tremor of grief. Diane had this rare ability to see through the noise of life, he said. She didn't chase fame. Fame chased her. What she cared about most was authenticity, truth, and laughter. Working with her changed me, and I think she changed all of us. Next was a quiet, emotional moment shared by her children, Dexter and Duke. They spoke not as the children of a Hollywood legend, but as a son and daughter who had lost their mother. To the world, she was Diane Keaton, her daughter said softly. To us, she was Mom. Funny, stubborn, endlessly curious, and always encouraging us to be different, to be brave. She taught us to find beauty in imperfection and strength in vulnerability. As the chapel fell silent, her son read a line from one of Diane's personal journals that she had kept for decades. The greatest thing I ever learned wasn't from the scripts I read, but from the people I loved. You write your own story by how you treat others. That line left a mark on everyone present. Many who attended later said it was one of the most emotional tributes they had ever witnessed. Raw, honest, and deeply human, just like Diane herself. Several of her close friends from the film industry were also in attendance. Meryl Streep, Warren Beatty, and Goldie Hawn were seen embracing each other outside the chapel, visibly moved. Meryl, one of Diane's dearest friends and admirers, shared her thoughts after the ceremony. There are stars, and then there are souls. Diane was a soul. Everything she did, every laugh, every role, every word had soul. The service concluded with a symbolic moment that reflected Diane's love of simplicity. Instead of a grand closing or a dramatic send-off, guests were invited to place their white roses near a framed photograph of Diane taken just a few years ago, smiling, wearing her signature hat, her eyes bright and full.